Hi everyone, this is OC from Digital Adventures. Got another great project for you today. This one is called Flappy Bird. We've got three sprites. We've got a Flappy Bird, we've got a top pipe, and a bottom pipe. So let me click on full screen and show you how this works. So we're going to click on the green flag, and then what we're going to do is we're going to see these pipes spawn randomly at the top and the bottom as our Flappy Bird advances. And then it respawns at the beginning of the screen once we get to the end. If we crash it to a pipe, game is over. So let's clear out of here. Let's go ahead and let's build this. So let's get rid of this existing code on the bottom pipe. We'll get rid of this code on the top pipe. We'll also get rid of the code in the Flappy Bird. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to get ourselves a when green flag clicked from events. Then we're going to go into motion and we're going to get ourselves a pointing direction. We want this pointing direction to be 90 degrees because this is where we want the bird to always start, is to be faced to the right. Then we're going to do go to XY. We're going to have this be negative 200 and 0. So it's going to start the midpoint left-hand side of the screen every single time. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create ourselves a variable. We're going to call this variable y speed. And what we're going to do is we're going to initialize this variable. So we're going to set y speed to 0. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go into looks. And what we're going to do is we're going to set our size to 30%. So we used the parrot A and parrot B. They were a little big for this. I wanted the bird to be a little smaller, so we're going to initialize that size there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab ourselves a forever loop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put ourselves a change x by at the top of this. And we're going to have change x by 3. And what this is going to do is it's going to advance the bird from left to right while it's going up and down. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves an if-then-else conditional statement. And what we're going to be looking for is whether or not the key space is pressed. And if the key space is pressed, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to change that y speed variable. So let's change that y speed. And we're going to have this be by 1.5. And then what we want to do is we want to have this thing turn clockwise or counterclockwise when we press that space. So like that's going to sort of tilt it up. And then what we're going to do is we're going to switch the costume. This is going to give us that flapping motion. So we're going to switch the costume. We're going to start off at parrot A. And then what we're going to do is we're going to wait a bit of time. So we're going to have it wait 1/10 of a second. And then what we're going to do is we're going to switch the costume to parrot B. And what this is going to do is that's going to give us that effect that makes it look like the bird's wings are flapping. And so for the else part of this, what we're going to do is we're going to say when we're not pressing that space bar, what we're going to do is we're going to change our y speed by a negative 0.5, and that's going to cause us to dive down. And we're going to have this turn clockwise by 1 degree, and that's going to simulate that sort of tilting motion. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a change y by. We're going to place this outside of the if-then-else conditional statement. And what we're going to do is we're going to change that variable by y speed. We don't want this showing up on our screen, so we're going to get rid of that. So that's the code for the motion. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of conditions for what should happen during the game, for the game to be over. So first we're going to get ourselves a when green flag clicked. Then what we're going to do is in control, we're going to get ourselves a forever loop. And then we're going to put 4 if-then conditional statements in here. And inside these if-then conditional statements, we're going to do a couple things. So the first thing that we're going to do is we want a greater than operator. We want a less than operator. And then we want 2 touching conditions. So we're going to grab ourselves a touching condition. And these touching conditions are going to be for our top pipe and our bottom pipe. And we're going to get ourselves a final condition that says what happens when we get to the end of the screen. We're going to reset it to the beginning. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get ourselves a greater than operator for this one. And so for the top two, what we're going to be looking for is our Y position. So we're going to go in here, we're going to grab ourselves a Y position, going to get ourselves another Y position, and for the bottom one here, we're going to get ourselves an X position. So we're going to have this say if Y position is greater than 170, if this Y position is less than a negative 170, and if the X position is greater than 230. And so for the first couple, for the first four, what we're going to do is whenever this happens, we're going to do a stop all. So the game's going to be over if we go to the top of the screen, the bottom of the screen, and if we're touching that top pipe or the bottom pipe. And then if we get to X position greater than 230, what we want to do is we want to have it reset. So we're going to have it reset to that negative 200 Y equals 0. And because the bird has been tilting back and forth as we went through, what we're going to do is we're going to have a point in direction to be 90 degrees. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to program this top pipe here. So we're going to go into events. We're going to get ourselves a when green flag clicked. And what we're going to do is we're going to initially hide it so we can create a clone of ourselves or a bunch of clones. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set our size to 75%. Then we're going to go into control. We're going to grab a forever loop. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get a wait block. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a clone of ourselves. We don't want this just to create a clone every 1 second. What we want it to do is we want this to be a little more random. So we're going to get a pick random. And what we're going to do is we're going to say from 1 to 3 seconds. And then what we need is a little direction on what happens when it starts as a clone. So what we're going to say is when it starts as a clone, what we're going to do is we're going to have it show up. And then what we're going to do is in motion, we're going to grab ourselves a go to XY. This one's going to be 221, but we want this to be a pick random. This is our top pipe. So we're going to have this vary between 130 and 170. And what we're going to do is we're also going to get ourselves a repeat until block. And what we want to do is we're going to check our X position. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a less than operator. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking for our X position. And if our X position is less than a negative 230, what we're going to do is we're going to have this advance across the screen. So we're going to have it change X by a negative 10. And then at the very, very end, what we're going to have it do is we're going to have it delete the clone. So we're going to have this, we're going to copy this over to the bottom pipe. And then we're just going to modify a couple items of code in here. So this is our bottom pipe. Looks like we didn't get both of those in there. All right, so we've got one green flag clicked. And so what the modifications that we're going to do is so that there's a little more variability, what we're going to do is we're going to say that we're going to have this vary by 0.5 and 4 seconds. And then what we're going to have this one do is we're going to have this, since at the bottom of the screen, we're going to say negative 30 to a negative 170. And that's at the bottom of the screen there. So let's click on full screen. Click on the green flag. We're going to see how this works. So we see that the pipes are randomly spawning. We could see the delay that we put in there. We get to the end. It resets to the beginning at that 90 degrees and at that left-hand side middle of the screen. We go here. And then what we're going to see is up. We see that when we crash it to a pipe. So one more time, let's see. We get to the end. We see that our movement is correct. All right, so that's really the project here. We see if we crash it to the bottom that the game is over. So I hope you all enjoyed this project. We'd appreciate a like, a comment, or subscribe if you're enjoying the content. Look forward to seeing you back for the next one. Thank you so much.